Artlist.io.
Get down in the car, one time give it all, bust it open hard, let me see you drop. Get down in the car, one time give it all, bust it open hard, let me see you drop.
Music licensing reimagined.
I fucked up this Russell, yeah, we hustle, but then oh my God. I fucked up this Russell, yeah, we hustle, but then oh my God. What is my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die.
Hey, good morning. We're live from the eCarrierCheck studio. We got a new table today. I'm super jacked about that. And we've got an incredible guest on today with Chase, and we're going to be talking to him here in just a little bit. But I really want to kind of break down the week before we get in with Chase. I know it's been just kind of an interesting week. I almost feel like it's been a full moon week.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? People are fired up. People are ready to go. It's just been an interesting week. Tell me about your week, Nate.
You know, I truly never have bad weeks, and you're probably surprised to hear that. And the reason I say that is because we have such good support. We have great relationships like Chase. You know, it's just a really good week. I mean, can't complain. I got people just hitting me up constantly for finding shippers and learning how to, prospect in a loose market. That's what we're doing today. So I'm excited for today's show.
Yeah, nothing happens until something's sold. Right?
Yeah.
You can have the best operations team, but somebody's got to have the guts to pick up the phone and grind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I love about watching you. You're always on the phone. You're always kind of going. We've got Chase on today, and Chase has just an incredible background.
Oh, yeah.
Being at some of the larger brokers in the country. Chase, maybe break it down, man. Give us an understanding of where you've been from, and let's just talk some shop.
Yeah. So I've spent the last 8 years now. I started here in 2014 at Swan. Came on, and from day one, was a freight broker, right? Kind of had a little inkling into, maybe running a team if I could, get set up my own book of business and things like that. I started out actually in 2007 with C.H. Robinson, first job out of college, first real opportunity that came to light back then when I graduated, and, came on and started there working as an account manager, working on some pretty decent sized accounts. Spent almost 8 years there too, and had a good solid foundation, with them of being able to talk to decision makers and C-suite players and things like that. Got thrown into the fire pretty quickly with that stuff, and it taught me a lot. There's something to be said about the accounts and opportunities you get with some of those companies, and being able to really get a good footing in, the transportation world, pretty quickly. So I spent about 8 years there in different roles, account managers, sales, LTL, things like that. And kind of worked my way through, and then had an opportunity to come here with Swan. Just one day out of the blue, just was, contacted by a recruiter and said, hey, how are you feeling about, working at CH? And I don't know, something about that day or something came up that I just felt that, I don't know what it was, but I've been hit up constantly like everybody else is. Right. And I don't know, I replied to that one message, and the first opportunity that came was Swan, and I jumped on it. The opportunity to be with a smaller size brokerage that was up and coming, and I felt that I was my way of getting out of that, jumping out of that huge, massive ocean into a much smaller pond, and impacting, so much more than just the accounts that I was working on. I couldn't pass it up. So, like I said, I started there in 2014 and haven't looked back since. And, now we have kind of morphed roles over the years. And now, we've got 2 offices that we, have under our agency, under Swan, and about 40 people under, and just growing and adding more all the time. So we've been blessed and fortunate not to have lay off anybody or go through any downsizing at all here. And we're constantly growing. Had our biggest year ever last year, and pacing for a new record this year. So I'm excited to see where we go. And with you guys, eCarrier, we brought on last year, I think, early last year, and my people are seeing a huge benefit from it. So excited to be here, and I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for sharing.
I think what's interesting, and I would love to hear, to break down a little bit more of your history. Obviously, you went from a Megatron, C.H. Robinson is the big one, right? And then kind of swinging down into the mid, size broker. What's the difference? Why is CH so big versus what did you see different with jumping into a mid? And did you implement some of that CH mentality to grow the way you did last year?
I did, and we still do. I think, coming into the role that I came into when I started, and, I tried to bring over some of the things that we utilized over there, and some of the tools and resources and tips and all that stuff, but, and the day in the life. But, honestly, I never felt that, I made much of an impact, right? I could bring in hundreds of loads a week and work, do all kinds of things, and it didn't really move the needle, right? And so to me, coming over here, having the partners and the owners of the company and all the decision makers on the same floor with you, and nobody has an office, and being there and being able to bounce ideas and take things and run with them, and that was, to me, the biggest thing that drew me in. It wasn't the money. It wasn't any of that, right? It was, can I impact how the company moves forward? I've got ideas. I've got things that I think will work. Some of them are ideas that I had from, past experiences. Some are things that I think we could do better at. And, that was what really drove me to make that change. It's the culture, because of that too. Everybody feels empowered, right? And so, to me, that, and I always, from anybody that works here, comes through these doors, we want them to, to bring their ideas and think outside the box and come with new solutions that they may have wanted to do or never got the chance to do, or, and bring that to light. And, let's see if it's something that we can bring in and utilize and run with. So, that to me are the biggest things that make the difference between a large brokerage and a small brokerage. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a larger brokerage. Like, again, you get some, I wasn't able to, shake hands and meet with some very powerful people in the freight industry, right? And I would have never got that experience if I started at a small brokerage off the bat, right? So and learning how to develop those relationships, even with people that, are whoever they are, right? At the end of the day, it has its place, and it's great. And I think some people love it and want to stay in something like that. And other people just, want to impact a smaller organization, with more emphasis, right? So that's kind of what drew me here.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And for anyone that's here today, please feel free to drop some questions in the comments. I do have one for you, Chase. How do you stay up to date on industry trends and changes? And what resources do you rely on for that information? I speak with a lot of freight brokers that are new, and I think this would be a kind of a good place to kind of start.
There's stuff everywhere, especially nowadays. You're going to hear me say this 100 times. Back when I started, the things that we had, the tools and resources back then. We were still getting rate cons on fax machines when I started in this, right? So the tools and resources are out there everywhere. I think FreightWaves puts a good product and sonar out there on some of those things. There's a lot of different industry things. How LinkedIn, I'm always on there every day reading about different things. Join some of the 3PL organizations or groups they have on there. There's a lot of good topics that come through that. I like to personally, too, on top of a lot of those things that you can get, I like to just keep in touch with your customers. You got to know, that's the best way for you to be able to get a real barometer of what's going on in the world, right? If you're not talking to them regularly, just about life, if it's not about, what freight you're moving this week, talk to them about, their situation and what they see in the market, what's in their industry, what are the pitfalls, what are the shortcomings, where are the, how is the inbound market looking, are they able to secure their raw materials and their products they need in a timely manner, or do they, what are they seeing? And if you're not staying in front of that, it's going to create even more of an uphill mountain for you as time goes on. That's the biggest thing for me.
I definitely agree. Sometimes we just got to kind of sit back and just understand we're talking to another person. We're all human, and that's great input. I love that.
I do too.
I always look at it as, and I always look at it when I tell my people, regardless of when they start or who they're talking to in an organization, my biggest piece of advice to them, because some of those people are fresh out of college when they come in to become a freight broker or whatever, and it's nerve-wracking. I've been there. I know you're calling into people that 40, 50, 60 years old maybe, and have been in the company for 20 years or whatever, and they're set in their ways, and you're calling them out of the blue. I always tell people, you've got to talk to people like you are. Imagine sitting next to them at a bar drinking a beer, right? And just sparking up a conversation. Make it light. Make it, it doesn't even have to be about freight or anything like that going forward. We all are, like you said, Nate, we're all just people, and the earlier that you can figure that out, that, you're all in this together. Everybody's got goals and dreams and things they want to accomplish. And, if you can prove that you're there, that you are engaged and you want to help them achieve what they want, then the conversation becomes easier. But you've got to be able to get past the nerves and pick up the phone.
Well put.
That's a great aspect. Just honestly, it's just having a conversation. I think some of my best relationships as I was in freight brokering, just talking to shippers, you just became so good friends, or you became at least well acquainted enough. You're texting each other, going, "Hey, did you see the Huskers this weekend?" Or
right.
Obviously, the Huskers can't really compete with the old Bulldogs you got down there, Chase. But we'll take some of your recruits though this year. I'll tell you that.
There you go. We just got to keep them out of jail again. That's our problem.
Oh my gosh, I know that was crazy. You mentioned something earlier that I want you to kind of talk through. Is we talk to a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of guys that are just getting their brokerage off the ground, and honestly, a lot of the people that we talk to have gotten to a point where they're like, I need to bring somebody on. I need to bring a second person on. I need to get to a third or fourth. And we deal with some of the smaller brokers too, 6, 7 brokers. And they're like, hey, I got to get to 10. How important is it to just really hit up the, hey guys on Facebook, I love that you're on here, by the way. And if you have questions, we have Chase on, obviously an industry expert, grown his brokerage from something, somewhat mid-sized to a fairly large brokerage. And we'll get into that a little bit more because of prospecting. But talk about how important it is, or what you're looking for in qualities of hiring a freight broker, or where are you finding these people that come to work for you? Because you guys do get college kids. How important is it, the relationships you've built maybe with local colleges, or, where are you finding these kids?
All of the above. Like you said, the colleges is very important. We go to a lot of the career fairs. We're very much we're kind of spoiled here locally in Atlanta. We've got my alma mater is Kennesaw State, and they host every year Dr. Lowe, and he's one of the he's the foremost I think head of the National Collegiate Sales Program. So they do every year, and we sponsor it. They have a collegiate competition. I think it's coming up next month or this month. And all the there's like 250 schools around the country that have a sales program, a sales degree that you can earn from these colleges. And it's very, very intense. And it's awesome. And I'm very blessed to be, friends with Terry and in that team over there at Kennesaw, and we've had some good opportunities come from that, and I would highly recommend anybody that is looking now. I will tell you right now, the kids that go through those programs are highly sought after from a lot of different companies. A lot of them come out of the program with 3 and 4 offers right off the bat. So it will take you some time. There's some opportunities there, but that's a program that we've seen some benefit from, and on top of that, I think with the colleges themselves, we do go to a lot around the Southeast, and I'm not really, we're not really looking for, they got to have the sales or the logistics background or things like that. What we're looking for is the personality. It's the attitude. It's the, it's the person that, sometimes, and sometimes this is true, sometimes it isn't, but we've noticed that sometimes, some of these people that are the hardest working and the want it the most are the ones that life has kind of kicked them in the ass a little bit at some point in time, they've had to work their way through college and pay for their own way or whatever, and that's just one example. But it's the personality. It's the person that wants to come in, wants to develop, is coachable, and sees a comp plan that is very much in their favor if they're willing to put the effort into it to make great money within a shorter time frame. So it's not about the education, what you got, it's the attitude. If I put the work in, am I going to get the most out of it? And if the answer is yes, then that's we're there for them. So hopefully that answered your question on that. But colleges and having some of those relationships, even if it's not a program like that, even if you are looking for college, recently graduated, just get in touch with the local colleges around and the professors. I mean, if the more contacts you can have at the the college level with the professors, the better. And they've all got speaking engagements and ways that you can come and engage with the students, and that always helps.
Yeah, I love that. What do you got?
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of risk in this industry. I've heard a couple stories this week already about this local brokerage here. There's a lot of risk. But how do you approach risk management and minimize the potential for errors or delays? And I know you oversee a lot of people. So how do you relay that to your team and control that?
Well, it's getting tougher every day on the vetting of carriers, right? You guys, the three of us have almost talked ad nauseum about this in the past several months about double brokers and all the things we're seeing, and it doesn't seem like the FMCSA or anybody is actually going to do anything about it in the short term.
Right.
Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like there's any push anywhere to minimize any of that risk from a regulation standpoint. So you have to be in your training and development of your people. You have to use all the tools and resources that are available to you in order to vet carriers accordingly before they even come on, get set up with you or what have you. So, using the carrier 411s, using some of the other, tools and resources, the safer, whatever you use as an organization, right? You've got to continue to vet carriers and monitor them as much as possible, because that it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. These double brokers are getting smarter by the day. They're no longer in Glendale, California, and Glendale, Arizona. They're all around the country. Hell, there was one that was set up in my backyard, and it was a nail salon, right? I knew right off the bat that address that, when they called in and we looked at it, I was like, there's no way. So, they're getting, more desperate, right? As people start to understand what the hell's going on. But, you've got to be able to have that, safe haven by reading up on these carriers, doing your research, vetting them as much as possible. And knowing what to look for. A lot of these companies out there, I don't think a lot of people take advantage of some of these things. If you've got questions about, if what a carrier that you may be on the fence on, and maybe your organization may be on the fence on, companies like Carrier 411, they have a line you can call or an email, and they've got people. I've talked to Eric and some of those people over there last week that their job is to take those calls from you and talk to you about what they see from the data that they provide. So, they're not going to tell you, yes, you should use this carrier. No, you shouldn't. But they're going to give you all the facts and all the data points that help you make an educated decision. But it ultimately is on you and the organization to decide what risk factors you're willing to take and what you are comfortable with, moving forward with the carrier.
Is there any freight or type of customers you try and avoid?
The ones that don't pay. Yes, there are. And everybody is different. Like, everybody's risk tolerance is different. Everybody's, every company is going to have a little different parameters on who they would work with, who they wouldn't work with. From us, there are certain industries that we may, at certain times, when the market is loose or the market is kind of what it is right now, a lot of uncertainty. Yes, there are going to be some I would say verticals or areas of manufacturing that we may not look at as somebody we want to pursue at that time, just based on market conditions. Companies that operate on very low margin percentages on what they operate to what they sell, right? So you got to look at that. If the market is in a downturn like it is right now, companies that are running razor thin margins on what they produce and sell, you got to look at some of that stuff, because their tolerance is going to be, if they have a bad customer that doesn't pay them, they're going to be having some issues. And a lot of people work with freight forwarders and all that stuff. You got to look at some of that stuff as well too. In certain markets, like with COVID, right? Going into 2020, 2021, a lot of freight, a lot of companies with freight forwarders, we saw it in our business, right? Saw some, slow times with a lot of those freight forwarders and them extending out their payables and stuff like that. So you just got to be careful. I wouldn't say there's industries that we avoid, but industries that we, are very much more cognizant during a downturn in the market.
Yeah. We obviously the question or that we're talking about is prospecting in a loose market. Maybe we transition to that here a little bit. What would you consider a loose market? You've seen, you've been in it since 2007. I mean, you've seen, some weird up and downs. Like, some drastic ones, right? 2008, 2009 was brutal.
Yeah.
I was in there.
Awful.
Explain to us what a loose market even means, if from your verbiage.
In the freight world, so it's very much kind of what we're seeing right now. A lot of carriers out there that don't have a lot of contractual business of their own. Maybe the smaller mom and pop trucking companies, 10 or less trucks or whatever. They don't really have a lot of them don't have a sales force, right? So they don't have, and that's very much why a 3PL exists the way we do in the market right now, right? And so, a lot of those trucking companies rely heavily on 3PLs and companies like us. So, there's a lot more trucks on the road and, not as much freight going around. And, so when that happens, you get a lot of, the phone blows off the hook in here, right? You get a load posted up there and everybody's calling in on it. And so, you're still going to get your double brokers and everybody else through that time as well, right? So on top of having carriers that are very, that are you know, uh, are dead set on trying to find freight to keep their truck moving, keep their company running. You've got bad actors out there too. So it's all about going through the forest and finding those good partners. But yeah, it in this market, you're going to have opportunities to, if you do get, freight that your customers are giving you, then you're going to have opportunities to get those things covered, probably to a much better percentage than you would if it's a tighter market. But also, too, on the other side of that coin is you've got customers out there that have a lot of options, right, with who they use as their carrier partners. So you're going to get a lot more no's when you're calling in for the first time to a company out there, especially if you don't have any sort of calculated, sales process that you're using, right? It's going to be tough. And so you've got to make sure that you go in with a plan, a process, and, able to develop that relationship with that customer, or you are going to see a lot of no's. And we're going to see a lot of no's regardless, right? But you hope that if you can develop a relationship with them and solve problems, that you're going to have a little bit better of a time than if you're just calling in and saying, "Hey, I got trucks, let me move some freight," right? So that's kind of what you will see right now.
Yeah, I always feel like, I've had the opportunity to hire people in both dips, whether I'm going up or down. And it's kind of entertaining to see, if you hire somebody right now, they get a lot of no's, they have a lot of options. You hire somebody in a tight market and they're like, "Hey, I got a truck." And they're like, "Really?" Like,
Yeah.
and so it's just kind of fun to watch, the success of freight brokers, logistics providers in those dips, and where they fall within those dips is kind of entertaining to watch.
It is. Yeah, and like I said, you have to go in with a game plan, right? Every call is different, but your process cannot be to just call in and tell the customer on the other end or prospect on the other end of the phone, "Hey, I'm Chase with Swan. Let me help you. Let me get on a routing guide," or something like that. You're not going to get anywhere with a lot of those calls, and unfortunately, we do a lot of, we interview people and we're always hiring. And whenever I hear or talk to anybody that's been in the industry before, and they come in and we're in the interview process, and first question I'll ask is, talk to me about your sales process, right? Talk to me about what you've learned. You call up that customer and get in, or prospect, and you get a decision maker on the phone. Well, how's the conversation go? What are you trying to accomplish? And unfortunately, I still hear, and I know a lot of companies out there have sales, trainings that they're going through. Some of them are pretty rigid, and I still hear, I get surprised all the time. I hear it's like, "Well, I call in and say I'm with, so and so, and we've got 3,500 of our own trucks, or we're a large brokerage with this and this many contracts and sales, and we just want to show you what we can do and help you." And I'm just like, right there, I just I almost feel bad for him. Like, it's not how the conversation should start. And if I'm on the other end of that phone, I got nothing for you, because you're going right into selling them a solution, and you don't even know nearly what a problem that they've come across, or a pain point for them. You're just going straight into the, "Hey, I know I can solve it." And so it's all about, and I'm not going to give away our trade secrets or how our process goes or anything like that, but you've got to develop a relationship. You've got to start from developing a needs, or what their pain points are, before you can even get into anything further with them. So,
But besides maybe actually break that down a little bit further. I don't want you to give away the trade secrets of how Swan has come from the ugly duckling to this beautiful white, swan out there. But, give us a rundown. Obviously, we hear a lot of people do that, right? They're calling, going, "Hey, I got a truck. Let's go." What, give us like 1, 2, 3. What could somebody new that's really trying to prospect? I love the relationship, but how do you do the relationship if they're not willing to give you time? Or, I love the process. What does that look like? Maybe give us a little more value on this without giving away trade secrets.
Yeah, sure. So let's start from the beginning. So as far as prospecting is going, so you want to, I know that you've got to have a pipeline, right? And you need to make sure that, and going back to that question from earlier, right? You want to make sure you've got a pretty good, um, I would say, broad, portfolio to start, right? Don't pigeonhole yourself into one industry. And so I would say when you're first starting out as a transportation broker, find several different industries, right? Go and get leads from wherever you get them. eCarrier is a great place to start. I'll plug you guys all day long, and I can get into the details on that later. But don't pigeonhole yourself, at least to start. Start with different verticals. Try a few different things. Learn a little bit about them. Okay. I'm not saying go out there and research enough to develop white papers on what they're doing. I'm saying learn a little bit about the company, learn a little bit about the industry, right? Know something to where you can call into those places and get an understanding of what they're doing, and let them understand and hear that you do have a little bit of knowledge and background. Never call into a place and say, well, what are you guys shipping over there, right? You should never start a conversation with that. So diversify your portfolio when you're starting. Look at several different industries. Look at ones are in whatever market you're in. Look at ones that you feel, or from your research you found that are shipping a regular amount, right, and aren't as affected by the current economic climate that maybe some of the other industries would at that time. And really try to dig deep a little bit into finding out what they do before you making this. And once you do, call all their customers, their vendors, suppliers, competitors. Who cares? Call them. If you know that knowledge and have that industry experience already from a little bit of research that you've done, do it, and it'll make that conversation go that much smoother. But I would say don't stay open with that. Look at several different things. You've got to have good resources on where you're pulling leads. Don't and they've got to be up to date. Don't pull old dirty data. You want to have sources reliable that you're pulling these from. There's a lot of different ones out there. I won't go through all of them. If you guys want to know, I can give you some examples of some, for anybody that wants them, but that are free. There's a lot of them out there that are free, that don't charge. And we do a big mix of a lot. We pay for some. We have some from free sources that we get. There's some out there that all you need is a library card, believe it or not. You can get in. Reference USA is one of them that, you just need a library card and can get a lot of good data out of. So, and then from there, again, it's all about that differentiation, because you're going to be calling into these people, and once you get that decision maker on the phone, he's probably heard of, or he or she has probably talked to 10 other people that day that did the same thing, especially in a loose market. Everybody's prospecting in a loose market, right? So, it's about differentiation. It's about being that breath of fresh air. So, again, if whatever research or whatever you've come up with from either that company or that industry, use that on your opening, right? Use that to kind of differentiate yourself from everybody else that calls in. Ask the open-ended questions on those. Hey, I'm seeing in your industry, I'm hearing a lot about this and this. How's that impacting your company? It's an open-ended question, right? Gets them talking. It's different than, hi, I'm Chase with Swan, and I've got trucks in your area. Let me get on your routing guide. It's a different way to start. It's a different way to develop that rapport and show that you understand what that company is doing.
That's so good. I love the open-ended question toward their industry. Honestly, being able to relate to somebody and build trust over this in less than 10 seconds, you better have good 10 words that are coming out of your mouth, or it's going to be the same result as the rest of the freaking calls. So, yeah. I love the way you positioned that, talking about diversifying industries, those open-ended questions specifically toward the industry, and then just, gaining that industry knowledge. It's so interesting. If you take the time to research, ABC Manufacturing, and you get on their website, there is a lot of times they actually share their vendors. They share who they are. It's literally on their website.
It's everywhere. And there's so many other avenues to, a lot of people don't see, any of those They may be a part of some alliances or associations and things like that that you're not even aware of. Georgia has a Georgia Manufacturing Alliance, I've been a member of that, and we're not even a manufacturer, right? So, but you get an understanding of companies, and then you can go on their websites and, go to their shows or their meetings and stuff like that. And it's all there for you. And a lot of that stuff is free. And it's not that they may just have their suppliers and vendors on their website. They're part of these alliances that, have nothing to do with their company, but they bring leads. And you got to also think too, you have to use these carriers and these drivers to your advantage. Every time you're on the phone with a driver, talk to them. I mean, these drivers, nobody's asking these drivers where they picked up from last and where they're delivering to next. I mean, it's a simple conversation. Hey, Sally, I know you just delivered this load for me. What brought you? Where are you going next? Even if it's not your load. Oh, I'm going over here to pick up at XYZ company. There's a lead. They're everywhere. You just gotta you gotta be asking the questions, and you gotta be, you just gotta be open to prying in a little bit to these people, and positively, and obviously constructively, but they're wealth of information that you're going to get. That sometimes, I mean, I've had carrier partners in the past that have sent me all their business they've done for the last year, right? All their pickups and deliveries, and they're just like, here you go. Like, didn't even think twice about it. I mean, they're not putting their pricing on there, but they're telling me what where they're picking up and delivering. All you have to do is ask. You don't know until you ask. I was watching this thing on LinkedIn. Steve Jobs was talking about that, the other day. It's obviously from years ago, and he said, you never know. I picked up the phone and just asked the guy to give me all his old motherboards, and he sent them to me without even thinking twice. And it's things like that. If you're not willing to pick up the phone and ask, you're never going to get what you want. So I say, in this world now that we're in, where everybody wants to get on and message each other and text and email, and nothing replaces the phone. We're not in a world yet where we can just totally get rid of phones on our desk. You got to stay in front of it. You got to talk to them. They got to hear it. Tone to me is dead on an email, right? You can't. Your tone is of partnering. They want to hear that in your voice. They want to hear that you care about what they're doing. And so if you're not doing that and being able to, elaborate with that on the phone, they don't seem that your customer, your prospects, is going to be a tone dead situation, So.
Yeah, I can honestly say, Chase, I love where you went with that, because, having conversations, just being an empty cup and letting somebody fill it. I can honestly say I have a master's degree from drivers that have taught me more stuff about this industry than anybody else. These guys have taken the time to educate me, to let me know of issues they have with tires, or issues they have at docks, or issues they have at different loads, and different types of trucks. I could talk more about trucking than, because of that education I've gotten from just be willing to have an empty cup and let somebody fill it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I can't imagine being on the road, mostly by yourself, right, for long distances all the time. And I mean that, sometimes they just want to talk, and you got to be able to listen and understand and ask the right questions, and and they're people too, right? And they're out there doing what they want to do, and if there's ways that you can help them, achieve their goals and things like that, why not?
Yeah.
So they're a great resource to use, and a lot of people, unfortunately, they, the 3PL and the trucking company, relationships a lot of times are very constrained, and a lot of times, we get bad raps, on both sides, right? And I think that, the more that you can, even to them, to be a breath of fresh air and say, look, I'm nothing without you. I don't. There's no Swan trucks rolling down the road, at least on, we do have some, but I mean, on the, in our brokerage world, there's no Swan trucks with this logo on the side rolling down the road. So, we need those people, right? And the more they understand that, and the more that, you can be that, resource for them too, then the better off everybody's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're breaking down, we're still talking sales, we're talking, about growing your business. A typical day to day from, a brokerage standpoint, what percentage of their day should they be spending prospecting? Is it all of it? Is it half of it, a quarter of it? And then from there, you mentioned process. What can we do in order to make sure that, man, I tell you what, being in a brokerage, and Nate's been in a brokerage with me, you're just getting pulled a million directions. Everybody has ADD. It's just kind of hectic. And how do you kind of stay in a structured process state in order to gain some, just gain some traction with your pipeline?
Right. Well, and I think too, you got to think about it in terms of every company's different. You got to think about it in terms of what's the role, right? Some companies will have, support staffs for their up and coming, brokers. Some of them, it's just all cradle to grave and you're doing everything. It just depends a little bit on the model. So, my answer wouldn't be that, one size fits all. But, for the typical person that may be a cradle to grave, you're going to have to lean on the people that are around you. Technology is a big. I'm a operations guy, right, and sales guy, but operations is my main focus every day. It's how my brain's wired. I'll tell you, I'm not the smartest person in any room, but I can, I'm a task oriented person myself, and so I think that helps a little bit, and not everybody is, so it may not be the same for them, but find the tools and resources that are available to you first off to keep your day in order, right? You always have to think in the back of your mind, is what I'm doing right now making me money? And if the answer is no, then that task needs to go away, or you need to lean on your leader or somebody around you to help you mitigate that task or that problem. And so you can focus on your main goal, which is to bring in new business, to sell, to be on the phone, and to, develop relationships. So it's all to me about time management is the biggest thing I can say first and foremost is you've got to have a process in place or a structure in place that allows you to grow. And if your company is not, a sales culture then sales first culture, then it may not be the best environment for you if you're going to be in that role, right? If you're constantly having to chase invoices or PODs or, help with those situations and all that stuff, you're not going to be a successful freight broker. You're just not. In order to grow your business from the very ground, you're going to need to focus almost 100% of your time on developing, those and making those sales calls and doing that, or you're not going to be successful. The more time that you're spent doing menial tasks or, stuff like that, the worse off you're going to be. Your organization, your people, need to take that off of the freight broker's plate as much as possible. I think we do a pretty good job of that here, of removing that stuff from our up and coming freight brokers, so where they can sell and where they can develop, and they don't have, time taken from them for tasks that are not going to be revenue producing, tasks.
I love that. I'm such a fan of just asking yourself the question, what is what I'm doing right now going to drive revenue? I mean, it's kind of everything. Nothing happens till something's sold, folks. You got to have the bills paid. So right. I'm such a fan of that. Chase, I know you mentioned you wanted to share kind of a document or kind of go into that role. You might lead into what we're looking at and talk through what you're going.
So going back to what we said earlier, this was more about the process. I'll elaborate as much as I can, but the process is, again, it's not about coming in and starting with a solution, right? And I'll figure out how I do this thing here on this live stream, but Let's see here.
You're good. Take your time. We have quite a few people on too. If anyone has questions, please feel free to ask Chase. Chase is from Swan, been in the industry since 2007, and is really just taking a book of business and taking it up the chain quite a bit. So, any questions you want to ask Chase, feel free to do that while Chase is trying to figure out how to.
Your technology.
Yeah, and in the meantime, you'll see eCarrierCheck.com going down below the screen, and schedule a demo with us. And here we go.
I love this.
So this is just one piece here that this is just a couple quick slides that I'll go through. But again, this isn't really our process or anything like that. It's just a little model. And first and foremost, I need to give credit where credit's due. We use a lot of different resources for, developing our sales model and our sales process, our sales plans, a lot of those different things. If you're not familiar with Dr. James Kinney, he is a professor at, I want to say Eastern Michigan. He's highly involved in TIA. I think he's on the board at TIA too. And so some of these things come from him. I know you guys have heard of Joel McGinley, who's with HubTech now, but he's been with a lot of different companies out there and started some 3PLs and a lot of things like that. But we get a lot of stuff from him. But this, I think, is from Dr. Kinney, if I'm not mistaken. But it talks about, telling the whole story when you're going into, selling to a prospect. And, again, most people go in and propose that solution. I've got trucks in your area. I've got, I'm with a large brokerage. That's our advantage, right? We can handle all of your freight opportunities, and you're already trying to go in your differentiation and validation, right? You're already selling them a solution, and you really don't know what you're trying to solve yet. So, really understanding you got to go back from the beginning, and you've got to understand where their problem lies, and what's from that problem and that pain that they have. You got to quantify the impact of that problem. Right. So you've got to not only understand this is a pain point from them, and I'll just make up one. That you talk to a prospect and they say they're having a problem, moving freight to the Northeast. We all know that moving freight up to the Northeast is a problem for a lot of people, right? Pretty simple one, right? So we know that that's a problem for them. What's the effect of that? Well, I'm having to pay more for freight costs, which is driving up my budget, which is not allowing me to, bring on new people, or it's taking resources from other places. Okay, so that's the effect of that problem, right? It's causing budgetary constraints or whatever. So that's your effect. Right?
Hey, Chase.
Go ahead.
Hey, Chase. For some reason, your mic is breaking out. I don't know if anyone else is hearing that, but you might try it again. The sound's garbled. I don't know if you changed anything with your mic or anything.
I didn't. You still hear me?
Yeah. Now you sound better.
Okay, I'll stay in this. I went to full screen on my side. I don't know. Who knows? I hope you guys can still see. But anyway, so you so again, back to you've quantified the problem, right? The problem is that they have issues getting trucks up to the Northeast, and so that now the effect of that problem is, it's caused budgetary problems or things like that, right? So from there, your goal is now to you specified the need, right? Their need is to find other options for capacity going to the Northeast, right? There's where you start to develop your solution and move on to that. And again, that's a simple one, right? That's a easy X's and O's one there, but that's what you're trying to solve. And that's where you want to get into it. Develop your relationship from there based on what you can do. And I'll leave it kind of at that, but develop a process. Develop a process that's going to help you, start from identifying their problem and then developing there to a solution, and then ultimately to validation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, this is what a great slide. What a great example too of just getting into. I'm such a fan of how you just broke that down in such a simple way. Hey, here's a place that they're going. A lot of people don't go. They don't go to Florida. They don't go to the Northeast, or I mean, there's some just some basic things that happen with a shipper that they're going to struggle with because everybody does, right? And that's such a great example, Chase.
Yeah.
Man, you're bringing some value today, man. That's so good. I just get excited. It's so good.
Yeah, and again, that's a very, very elementary, simple one. And right, we go into a lot more in depth with our sales process and things like that. And everybody's going to have a little bit different of a one, but I just think you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing the rest of us in the industry a disservice, right? When you go in and start just telling a customer that you've got trucks in the area, and they tell you, well, you're the fifth brokerage I've talked to today, and it just makes my job harder, right? To go in there behind you and make a call because, they're thinking that, I'm going to go in and say the same thing. But you've got to understand that people do business with people they trust, and people do business with people that care about their business. I'm not going to, we have vendors that hit us up and Jared hit me up a while back. I don't know remember how that started, but, there was a relationship game there before we even talked shop, right? Before we even talked about business, and so it makes the process that much easier, right? And we've got some mutual opportunities and mutual goals that we have between the two companies, right? So it was a natural fit. But I can't tell you the number of times that people have called me, because thinking that I just want to buy anything off the shelf, right, to help our brokerage. But you get hit up all the time with people that just come in and say, hey, are you tired of this? Let me solve this for you, or whatever the spiel is. And you don't even know if that's a problem of mine. You don't know what my problems are, right? So why should I give you that time when there's no rapport developed or anything? It's just straight into, here's what I have for you. So
yeah, I love that. You're definitely so many people, especially after you've explained that, are just missing those first three steps. And I love that you broke that down that way. I mean, that's incredible. Chase, I feel like I could talk to you for hours on this. I'd love to hear just some closing thoughts on, if I'm starting a brokerage today, or if I'm just getting going from a smaller standpoint. Imagine Swan's not there anymore. You're doing this all on your own.
Never again am I doing this on my own again. I'll tell you that.
I get it.
I've done this several times, and I'm not doing it again. I get hit up too. You wouldn't imagine people are like, "Oh yeah, we got, hey, come, we got a brokerage we're starting." No. I feel for you. I envy. I know you. It's tough. It's for some people. I definitely have been there, and I've lost a lot of hair over it, and years off my life from it, and it's not easy. I'll tell you that much. But if you have the wherewithal, if you've got the will, and you've got the why, the why is the most important thing to me. The why is the most important thing, and that's what we preach here. It's all about our why. I mean, it's painted on our website that's coming live here in not too distant future, our new website. But anyway, it's all about your why. You've got to have something inside of you that is driving you to become successful, not only in freight brokerage, but in anything in the world. To me, it's family. I've got a young daughter and, a wife at home, and, and that's my why. And that's what drives me every single day to get up and come to work and try to be successful and not sit at my desk and stare at a screen all day. You have to develop. And if you don't know what your why is, go find it, because you've got to know what drives you, motivates you. And if you don't know that, or if you don't really have one, you're, like me, when I came into the industry, I was in my early 20s and I didn't know any better, right? It was, back in the time, it was enough for rent and beer drinking money, right? And some people, that's just where they are in life. And, but they're still wise. Everybody has one. So, develop that and, use it to your advantage and be driven. But if I could say anything about how to do it or what to do it, it's you gotta have that fire. And if you don't, your sales may not be for you. You may not be a salesperson, and that's fine. Some people aren't. You know, some people are and some people aren't. And if you're not, great. There's other things out there. But if you believe you are, you got to be motivated by money. You got to be motivated by success and helping people. To me, one of the biggest reasons why I get up, other than my whys, are hearing that person on the other end of the phone say, "You've solved a problem that I didn't even know I had, or developed something for me, or allowed me more time to focus on my core responsibilities," or whatever. To hear that on the other end of the phone, or in person, or whatever it is you can't put a price on that. That to me is what it's about. So
I love that. I love that. Chase, you've been truly a rock star today. So much value. Chase, obviously Swan's growing. You're looking at adding the right people. How do people hear about Swan for the sake of, at least getting your website name out there? I know you said it may be going live here soon, but
well, we have one out there right now. We've transitioned obviously to we've done a total rebrand. We kind of did a slow rollout, or a secret rollout, I guess. We went to Breakbulk down there in Houston last October and kind of released it. And we had if anybody was down there, they probably came to our booth. We had the booth with all the alcohol and all the good times, and but it was great. I mean, we met a lot of great people and had a soft rollout of our new rebrand. So we were a big sponsor there, and so right now we're going through a rebrand. We're in between websites, but it's still swantrans.com.
cool.
I'm Chase at swantrans.com. You can reach out to me. I'm easy to find, and we're out there on LinkedIn a lot. Again, we're hiring. Our coordinator, Melissa Nadler, is our head of director of talent, and so get in touch with her as well on there. She's Melissa at swantrans.com if you'd like to hear more about us, and or whatever. I'm always available to help anybody, right? I don't care if you're with a competitor or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. We're all in this together. We all have whys. We all have goals and aspirations, and we're better together than we are apart. So,
Yeah, I love it. I tell you what, we've had the opportunity to work with you guys for a lot of months, and to be honest with you, your organization is just a class act. Oh, yeah. You're a class act. Your team is a class act. We love to be a part of you and your growth and what you do. So thank you for being on today, Chase. Yeah. It was a spectacular show. Nate, close us out. Obviously eCarrierCheck has a lot to do with prospecting and helping people identify some of those problems that may be out there. Give us a rundown on eCarrierCheck and how do people get a hold of us, and what are the benefits of using it? Yeah,
well, the benefits obviously is here to help grow your business. And Chase, like he said, they're a user of ours, and we thank you for that. But we're that sourcing utility platform. Let's help you build relationships in this industry, as you heard that today. So, but schedule a demo to see how you can start building that relationship. We obviously have a weird amount of connections and relationships. Look at Chase, right? So, we're here to help you start somewhere, right? But yeah, get a hold of us. Let's see how we can grow your business, and kind of go from there. And Chase, thanks again. If anyone was late, I definitely really hope you go back and watch it from the beginning, because there was a lot of weird amount of value today.
It's crazy.
It was awesome.
What a wonderful show.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, if you need a reference on Jared and Nate and their product and them as people, come to me. I don't have many good things to say about them in general as people, but their product is good. So, but no, it's been it's truly awesome to see what they're putting together. Data and things that aren't out there from anywhere else, right? Some of the stuff that they're pulling out of there is just out of this world, and I know these guys are going to continue to be successful, and I'm excited to continue our relationship with you guys. So thank you on that too. So
That's awesome. Guys, have a great Friday. Thank you for being on.
Yeah.
We'll talk later.